Hey, what's up everyone? I'm Jakejames Lugo, and welcome to the channel, where you'll find some of the most fair and honest game reviews out here. And if you're watching this mad early over on my Patreon, thank you so much for being a supporter on my Patreon page. But if you're watching this during Star Wars month, may the 4th be with all of you. I really appreciate all the love and support for this big monthly event that I've been planning out for quite some time. And to kick things off, we're starting things with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order from EA, because I figured, you know what, let's start off with one of the latest releases in the Star Wars universe. And trust me when I tell you guys, you're in for a real treat here. It was a huge deal when EA obtained the license to make Star Wars games exclusively. But while others have debated whether this was a good thing or not, it did yield some interesting results for the franchise. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was released in November 2015 for multiple consoles. Eventually the game got some updates for next-gen platforms like the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. What's interesting was that it was developed by Respawn Entertainment, the team that was founded by Jason West and Vince Zampella, who were previously known for creating Infinity Ward and the Call of Duty franchise. This was definitely a huge departure from the first-person shooter genre and got a lot of attention. Now, fun fact, I was in the audience during E3 2018 at the EA Play event where the game was first announced, and I remember the intrigue that everybody had when the game's title was revealed. Back then, it was surreal to think that the guys who had made Call of Duty Modern Warfare were now going to work on a Star Wars game. You can only imagine how wild it was. Anyway, the story of Jedi Fallen Order takes place about 5 years after Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith. We follow a young Jedi padawan turned outcast named Cal Kestis. At the end of the Clone Wars, the Republic is reorganized into the Galactic Empire, and the Jedi Knights are hunted down after the execution of Order 66. If you're confused and lost here, don't worry about it. That's a chat for another time. Anyway, Cal is saved by his former master Jaro Tapal from being killed by clone troopers when Order 66 goes out. Since then, Cal has been hiding out on the planet Bracca, working as a scrapper for the Empire. But it's when his connection to the Force is discovered that he is pushed out of hiding and hunted down by Imperial Inquisitors. Before he's killed, he's saved by Jedi Knight Sarah Junda and her pilot Grease. The two of them are on a mission to help restore the Jedi Order by locating a Jedi holocron with the location of Force-sensitive children. Because of this, Cal's story takes many twists and turns as the group desperately sets out on their quest in a galaxy covered by the shadow of the newly formed Galactic Empire.
Cal, over here. You did good work on Bogano. The more information we gather on Cordova and the Zepho, the closer we'll get to stopping the Empire.
I've heard of ancient cultures, but don't know much about them.
I only knew that Cordova was obsessed with the Zepho, believing their teachings to be important. I too was intrigued by the mysteries of our galaxy. You better get moving. There's a lot to learn here. Good luck.
Now, I really like the time frame of which Jedi Fallen Order takes place within the greater Star Wars timeline. There's still some time, a good number of years that have passed since Revenge of the Sith and all the events of that film, but it's also still before A New Hope and during the time of Star Wars Rebels and after the Clone Wars. So there's all this breathing room for things to go down, some pretty big things to happen, while also respecting the overall canon of the entire franchise. And I like that because we get an interesting story that does have some effects to everything else, but doesn't really impede on it. It doesn't contradict the canon overall. At the same time, I also like Cal's personality. I think that he has his witty moments, and he has like this inquisitiveness and insightfulness, but he also is not a Jedi Master. He doesn't know everything. He's still learning the ways of the Force, and he's kind of cut himself off from the Force in light of all the events that have just happened with Revenge of the Sith. Again, the galaxy is in a dark place right now. But in addition to all of that, I like all the supporting characters as well that interact with Cal. I like all the different banter that happens in between the different stages and the different planets you could go visit. I like all the different kind of like insight on other parts of the galaxy as things have been going on with the Star Wars universe, because again, like I said, this is a dark place for the galaxy right now because so much has happened. Darth Vader is running around killing Jedi, and everybody's just like, oh my god, like we still can't believe what went down with the Galactic Republic turning into the Galactic Empire. It's just absolutely insane. There's a lot of good stuff, especially if you're a big fan of Star Wars. At the same time, I do have to say that if you're not really big into the lore of Star Wars, some of these things are going to go way over your head, and that does kind of suck because you won't appreciate a lot of the different nods and Easter eggs and little winks that the game has here and there. But even then, even if you just don't know anything about what's been going on with Star Wars in this moment in time, you're still going to appreciate a lot of the good stuff with the characters as well as the different events that go down. I think that there's still at least a good enough amount of quality here that you'll definitely still appreciate it. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into the big meat and potatoes of this game, and that's the gameplay, because there is a lot to unpack here. There's a lot of things to get into, which for me personally was very surprising. Now let me admit this up front. I was worried about how I would feel towards the gameplay of Jedi Fallen Order. Many of the Souls-style games out there all have similar characteristics. They're incredibly difficult to play through and can be very frustrating throughout. I was fully expecting this game to be more of the same, but I'm surprised to say that I was completely wrong. On the surface, Jedi Fallen Order plays like any other game you might know with this style of combat and exploration, right down to the same button inputs for various things. There's 8 planets to explore, where you can fight with your lightsaber and use force powers, spending XP in order to open up new abilities when you defeat enemies and visit a meditation point to recover and respawn enemies. Everything has a similar pacing to the combat found in Dark Souls, where you take small chances to attack and retreat when you need to. But for real, I grew to enjoy my time playing through this the more I got deeper into everything.
We do. We'll close the ship.
Outside of this being set in the Star Wars universe, a big reason I resonated with Jedi Fallen Order was because of the difficulty options. You could set the difficulty right at the start, which changes many attributes of the game such as enemy strength and aggressiveness, Cal's attack strength, and other important details. If you know anything about games like Demon Souls, Bloodborne, or Dark Souls, then you'll remember how those games don't have any difficulty settings whatsoever. It's either you deal with the harsh challenge or not. There's no room for anything else. For me personally, that was always super restrictive and made those games very hard to enjoy. No matter how I got killed, I would always have to repeat these long and dragged out areas over and over again, and for me, that just wasn't fun. However, in Jedi Fallen Order, you could play on a lower setting and not feel like the game is overwhelmingly difficult or cheap. The level of challenge is still there, but it never feels like I'm stuck with an impossible task. I definitely feel like I have some breathing room to tackle whatever the game throws at me, pushing myself to take risk, but never being boxed into something that I felt was tilted heavily out of my favor.
Good reflex! Lucky hit!
Now while I say all of this good stuff, Jedi Fallen Order isn't without its flaws that impact the total experience. Even with the updates for next-gen consoles, things like animation bugs and poor collision detection can add up and become major issues. Whether it's failing to gather the momentum for an upcoming jump over a pit, frequently missing attacks while I'm in combat, or getting hurt and killed by something off-screen, things could get very frustrating at times. You mostly see this occur during sections with large groups of enemies, or a lot of terrain that you need to explore, not so much during the game's boss encounters. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that Jedi Fallen Order does have a few moments where you do feel like a total Jedi Master, such as deflecting blaster fire from a group of enemies and slicing them up afterwards.
We're gonna make you pay! Take the shot! I've got this! Move! Don't let up! I can't launch! Direct hit!
So despite me having an experience where the more I played it, the more I wanted to keep playing, there was still one thing that kept annoying me throughout my entire experience, especially when I got to the later portions of the game, and that's the lack of fast travel. This is something that everybody has complained about who's played this game, and it's something that I feel like really should have been here, because one of the big things that Jedi Fallen Order does is that it encourages you to go off the beaten path to discover new pathways and like alternate routes to whatever your objective might be. And this is cool, especially with all these little goodies and stuff you could discover in certain areas of the planets you visit. However, one of the things that's really annoying is that when you have to go kind of, revisit a certain planet, there is no quick shortcut path in order to get where you need to get to. Sometimes you have to go through these long pathways and these long terrains where you have to deal with all the obstacles that are laid before you, and that just gets very tedious and very annoying, and if anything, it wastes a lot of time. What could have happened is that as you're exploring different areas of the planets you go to, maybe you could find alternate landing pads for the Stinger Mantis to land on, and that way way you could get to certain areas of those maps and certain areas of those stages in significantly less time. That would have been a godsend. I understand that the developers of this game did interviews where they talked about where they didn't want to do that as a conscious choice, but as a game, I feel like that's one of those instances where a game needs to be a game and kind of just throw a bone to the players, because it just takes so long as you're trying to, like, you know, revisit planets and get all the other little goodies that you might have missed. It takes so long to get from point A to point B sometimes, and that's just a little bit annoying. If anything, that's probably my biggest, tedious, most annoying complaint about the entirety of Jedi Fallen Order. But after all that being said, especially the good things that I've said about Jedi Fallen Order's gameplay, was there any other stuff, especially in the extras or post-game content, that made me want to stay in this part of the galaxy? To be totally honest with you guys, there's really not that much, unfortunately. If there's one thing I can say that Jedi Fallen Order really lacks, it would be in bonus content. This is a shame because it gets a lot right in terms of setting and fan service, but there's not a lot of extras you could really enjoy once you finish the game. There is a New Game Plus option, but I didn't really feel a need to go back through everything once I finished my first playthrough. Throughout your journey, you could find various items that allow you to customize your lightsaber and Cal's costume. These are just for looks and don't really impact the gameplay whatsoever, which is totally cool, especially when I have multiple options for different lightsaber colors and builds. But there's a part of me that really wishes that this would have some sort of influence on the combat itself, like giving me a damage or a defense boost in some way, or changing the potency of my force powers that I use. I wanted to have more of a reason to seek out all these hidden goodies on every single planet, not just have them as aesthetic choices.
Hey! Get your lasers off my lunch!
I do have to mention that there are some challenge maps where you do fight different enemies, or groups of enemies I should say, and you do get certain bonuses for completing them. But personally for me, I didn't really have a deep desire to go back and play those and complete them, because I didn't feel like I was going to get anything that really impacted my experience personally overall. It's not like I was going to fight some super boss, or I was going to get some like crazy lightsaber that did like ridiculous damage to my enemies, or some other crazy force powers that I have to unlock after the game. There was nothing along those lines. I wish personally that there was, to be honest with you. But for what we have here, the challenge levels and the challenge maps are there, but they're not really for me. I think that once I finished the main story, I was totally good and I could just walk away from the game being totally satisfied. So what's the final verdict? Can I recommend that all of you check out Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order? To be honest with you, yeah, I think that this game is good. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, or even if you're not really a Souls-style game fan, I feel like you could still at least have some fun playing through this game. It's challenging, but it's not ridiculously difficult like some of the Souls-style games are. At the same time, it's steeped in Star Wars lore, but it's not overwhelming with a whole bunch of story where you'll be completely confused and lost with everything that's going on. I feel like the game delivers its events like at least pretty significantly well, where it actually gives you insight into what's been going on with the Star Wars universe, while at the same time offering you something new that isn't complicated to understand. I find that the gameplay is fun. The more that I played it, the more that I wanted to continue playing it. I didn't feel overwhelmed with the level of challenge. I like some of the different characters and the side characters. There's a lot of good that's going on for this game, and it's probably one of the few EA games, like a lot of people have said, that really did a lot of good for the Star Wars franchise. Right now, you could get this game on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One, but it also has some next-gen updates, even though there's a couple bugs here and there for the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. My suggestion is to play it on one of those consoles for the best possible experience out there, especially if you want that smooth 60 frames per second. But no matter where you play this game, I feel like you'll definitely enjoy it and have a really good, interesting time in a galaxy far, far away.
That doesn't look good.
It isn't. It's him.
And there you have it, everybody. That's my review and my overall thoughts about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This game was surprising for me, man, and it was a great way to kick off Star Wars month here on the channel, because I was worried this game was gonna suck, and I'm just so glad I was wrong about that. This is definitely one of those newer Star Wars games you definitely need to pick up if you're a fan. And speaking of which, if you guys are watching this early on my Patreon, thank you so much for your support. If you haven't joined my Patreon yet and you're watching this during Star Wars month, check the description box down below for a link to my Patreon Patreon page. It's $1 just to join up, where you get early access to all my content, as well as a ton of other exclusives and bonus content that I know you guys are going to love, especially if you've been following my channel for a while now. You've been watching the Star Wars month content super early before everybody else just by being a Patreon supporter. So check it out if you can, even if you're not a big Star Wars fan, or if you are a huge Star Wars fan. Check out the links down below in the description box. Join my Patreon, be part of the community. It is super dope, and trust me, you are definitely going to love it. But as always, with any other game that I review on this channel, that's just my opinion about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Let me know your own thoughts about this game down below in the comment section. Tell me how much of a Star Wars fan you are. What are some of your favorite characters from this game or the entire Star Wars universe? Talk to me about some of your favorite Star Wars games that you definitely want to see highlighted here during Star Wars month, or anything else Star Wars related or other gaming related stuff you want to talk about. Put all that stuff down below in the comments section. Thanks a bunch for watching the video. I really appreciate it a ton. I'll have more videos for you to enjoy here on the side that I know you'll love. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon too. Don't forget to visit my Patreon linked below for early access to new videos every week, and join the Discord server too. It's linked in the description box below. You'll definitely love being a part of it. Thanks again, peace out, and stay epic everybody.